go further and begin to look at the book of Ezekiel now, when you begin to study the book of Ezekiel 22, you will look at verse 30, you will notice another progression. The Bible says that God began to say, and I sought for a man to stand in the gap. I sought for a man. So the immortals wanted a man to stand. There is something that he didn't want to happen on earth. So he needed somebody, a man to stand in the gap. But it was unfortunate that in that generation none was found. The Bible says, I sought for a man and I find none. I found none. There was not even one man to be found. In other words, mind you, between Isaiah and Ezekiel, Bible scholars point out that there was about a 90 to 150 years difference. So during the time of Isaiah, God needed a man. He sought for a man. He created a request for who shall I send. He was asking who he will send. Then 150 years later, God also was saying the same thing, which is I sought for a man. He still was searching for a man. So a man was still needed after 150 years. I'm trying to tell you that in this generation, in this dispensation, there is a searching. See, in order for me to put this into perspective, when you begin to look at the book of Matthew chapter 9 verse 7, Matthew chapter 9, if you look at the book of Matthew, you are also going to notice this thing. Matthew 9:37, the Bible says, Jesus Christ began to say something. He said that the harvest is ripe, but the laborers are few. The laborers are few. In other words, we are in need of laborers. He began to reiterate the same thing that was said. So in that generation, there was still a man needed. There was still a need for man. So you would observe from this progression that in the time of Isaiah, a man was needed. In the time of Ezekiel, a man was sought after. Even when Christ was on it, he also made the same statement. He said that the harvest is ripe, but we are still in need of more men to go out and help us gather the harvest. In other words, we need men. And that same thing is happening in our generation. The Bible has shown us a progression. So it is now left for us to know that in our generation, that cry is still there. Who shall I send? Who will go? No, it is still the heartbeat of the Father. It's still what the Father wants. He wants to send men. In fact, before I go further, the title of my message today is The Sent One. The Sent One. That is what we'll be discussing today. The Sent One.